Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the Professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Hey everybody, welcome to GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace episode 46. We're almost to 50, AJ. We're getting close, Ace.
For 50, we got to do something fun for 50.
We will have to do something really fun for 50. We'll have to think about that.
Yeah. Like
4 weeks off or so.
Yep. Well, next week we're going to have some special guests, so there's that.
We do. Why don't you tell everybody so they will be prepared for next week?
So as anybody who follows me on social media knows, I've been going to this con in West Plains since it started. It's called OzCon. This year they did a virtual con this last weekend. We were panelists, and they have started a podcast called OzPod, and we're going to have the two hosts of OzPod on our show next Thursday.
That will be a lot of fun. Those ladies are a lot of fun.
They're so much fun, and they're just really nice people, and they're really goofy. So we love goofy.
We do. We are down with that. That actually flows well with our show. You know, we're not the really serious. We're the goofy ones. We're okay with that. So
I spend the majority of my life being serious. So like when I'm talking about things I'm enjoying and stuff, I just don't want to be serious half the time.
And I don't know. You know, my father always said I was never serious enough. So, you know, whatever.
But we had a lot of fun.
That's the way it goes. Yeah.
OzCon was a lot of fun.
It was, yeah.
So I was like, Friday, I did a panel by myself about the geeky girlness. Saturday, I did a panel with Spoo about a series of enigmatic events. And then Sunday, we did our GeekyKOOL panel. So I just really enjoyed that. Getting to talk to nerdy people again. I like talking to you, but you know, like a huge group of people, it was weird.
Yeah. Well, it was fun to do that. Now, it was interesting because a lot of times they were just watching us talk. And I'm like, well I'm used to asking questions, not, you know, anyway.
Well, it was on Discord, and I have never tried Discord before. Like, I've never been on there before. So that was my first experience with that. And it was a little weird because they all muted themselves while we were, like, especially when I was in the panel by myself, because it's just me talking to people who are watching, but nobody's responding, and I didn't know how I felt about that at all.
I bet that would be really weird not to have somebody at least play off of there. So yeah, that would be weird.
I told them to unmute.
Yeah.
Everyone unmute and ask me questions. It's not good.
Well, yeah. Ask questions. Come on. But I wonder if there's a way for us to get those videos from Discord if we could.
I don't know.
Because that would be interesting to put those panels up there. So. I don't know. Well, we can ask them next week, or
ask them, or I can message CJ, who is the organizer.
Yeah.
He's like the head guy. Although pretty much their whole team knows everything that's going on, so that's a good thing. Their team's amazing.
It is. They're a close knit team, which is pretty awesome. CJ is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I agree.
You know, I love my nerdy people, so.
As we should. We show each other some love here. We're all hard enough on ourselves, so we don't need to be hard on everybody else. Just let's do it. So
we have a lot of nerdy things that have happened in the last month.
Yeah.
Got a lot of things we're going to talk about tonight.
There are. There's some media stuff that we want to talk about. Not social media but some movies and a series we'd like to talk about. So we haven't had a chance to do any of this in a while. So let's talk about these things. So we want to talk about the Disney Plus Marvel comic series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I was super excited for the series, and honestly, I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so you were super excited for it. I
Mm-hmm.
was not. I know that sounds bad, but
No.
I love Bucky. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love the Winter Soldier. I love Bucky. Um, I'm not ever been that into Falcon. Like
Mm-hmm.
just his storyline. I guess I've never followed it that much.
Sure.
But of course, I watched WandaVision, loved WandaVision, and
Right.
since these are the things that are kind of building up to the new MCU phase, and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Of course, I'm going to watch it. Plus, I live with somebody who like totally is like into all of those things. So yeah, I watched it too. You, I actually the first episode, the first part of the first episode was really exciting, and then it just got super slow.
Right.
I was so worried that it was going to be like very non-superhero-ish and just very like
Mm-hmm.
about everyday life, which is fine for a movie, but not a TV series based on two superheroes. So, but it picked up and I really liked it. So,
Yeah. Good. Well, so Falcon was one of those characters that I was introduced to pretty early on because of my appeal, not only for Spider-Man but also for Captain America. And in the '70s, they partnered Falcon with Captain America. And so most of the Captain America comics I read were back in the '70s with Falcon there. So I have a certain appeal for Falcon, more so than the Winter Soldier, even, that I'm like, oh man, Falcon's a really cool dude. I remember I read the Falcon miniseries, and it was written by, I'm forgetting his name. I can see his face. A well-known African American comic book creator, writer, artist, really awesome. And I got to
okay,
meet him in Kansas City a couple years ago.
Keith, if you're watching, put who it is down there because
Oh,
you know
that's true. Yeah, Keith will be able to tell me. And I, like I said, I can see his face. Nice guy. Met him. We talked about Falcon. We talked about some other stuff that he did. Just a really nice guy that I met at Planet Comic Con a few years ago. And was so excited to, because I'm like, I bought this in the grocery store, my Falcon miniseries. So I've got, of course, it doesn't have the emblem from the '80s where you bought it in the comic store, because it's about, I didn't live near a comic store, so
Yeah,
I took it and like, and he looked at it and he goes, "Wow, oh, all right." So he was happy to sign it and talk about it. So it was a really cool guy. So, but I say that to say, Falcon's always been one of those characters I've enjoyed. So I was excited to see that. Plus, I enjoyed when Falcon actually took over for Cap for that year or whatever it was, couple of years when Cap got aged in the comics, and whatever with that. But Falcon was cool. I always liked Falcon, so I was excited to see it, and I liked how they played to his family backstory. I thought that was a really well done in the series.
Yeah.
So that was good. And the Winter Soldier was fun, and their interaction was great.
I really enjoyed them playing off of each other a lot. Like they're friends but not friends, and then they become friends but then not.
Right.
And it's a weird thing. I've always liked Bucky. I've always liked Bucky Barnes, just because how I am with the people that I like in comics, and
Yeah.
he just has one of those roller coaster stories.
Yes.
That he is not necessarily a good guy. Like he was a bad guy.
Right.
Reluctantly now a good guy, but not all, you know what I mean? And he toes that fine line between like the hero and the anti-hero. And
right.
And I love that about him. And so when they announced this was going to happen, I was excited to see Bucky get some more acknowledgement, because
Right.
he did get a movie like about his story, but
right.
Then he just kind of became like this sidekick, but not even a front sidekick, like a once in a while you'll see him sidekick kind of person. And
Sure.
And he wasn't like he was important to the story and he drove it forward, but he wasn't on screen a lot for a
Right,
lot.
right.
And I was really excited about seeing that. And to be fair, Sam at, the Falcon in the movies as well, he's known, he's seen, you see him, but he is one of those characters also that didn't get huge amounts of screen time compared to the other Avengers. And I'm kind of loving what Disney is doing because of WandaVision with Vision and Wanda. They were both also Avengers, but they got screen time, but it was always eclipsed by, Iron Man and Cap,
right,
Hulk and all of those. And I love this new platform to give us these stories that might not be blockbuster movie type stories, but they're comic book stories, because in comic books there's always a comic book is a lead up to a climax of a story. Every comic book has a little bit of a climax for that story, or if it's a series, it leads up to a climax for that. But not everything in comic books is always action like these blockbuster movies. And there's not always these huge bad guys. There's smaller bad guys that they have to deal with, or internal stuff they have to deal with. And I think Disney Plus is doing a really good job. WandaVision was a great start off.
Yes.
And Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think it hit points that it really needed to hit, but it felt like you were watching a show based on a comic book and not just the big bad. It's not about the big bad. I mean, movies are going to be about the big bad. But
right.
I liked it. I actually loved I feel really bad for the actor. I can't think of his name now. The one
played.
Yes. I felt really bad for him because people were sending him death threats and
which is crazy.
Listen, US Agent is his story is what they kind of put out there. There was another little version of it, a little bit different, but for the most part, this is the story of him doing that. And he was never meant to be Captain America for a long period of time. He's never been Captain America for a long period of time. And in this storyline, without him, Sam would never have taken up the shield.
Right.
Because Sam would never, he didn't have enough faith in himself, and he didn't have enough, inner confidence to do it until he saw how bad it could be when he didn't. And but I feel really bad. He's playing a character. It's not his fault. He's playing a character. And I understand loving your characters. I freaking love Spider-Man. But I would never, if they change actors like they have several times, I can't imagine ever writing death threats to an actor because I didn't like him as Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, not at all. The character of US Agent, you're not supposed to like. He's supposed to be that guy that irritates you, and
he is the ego
everything else. Yeah, he is.
Maniac. But he's an egomaniac who has a moral compass that sometimes gets stuck in the wrong direction. But he doesn't actually have a moral compass, unlike a lot of bad guys that they think what they're doing is right. He knows when he does something wrong.
Right.
He realizes when he does something wrong. It doesn't stop him from doing it because he's so hot-headed and he has such a bad temper. It doesn't stop him, but afterwards he realizes that what he did is wrong, even though he internally justifies it.
Right.
But that's very human. That's a very human thing. So,
very human. Yeah. Well, and they kind of play up Captain America, there's only one guy, Captain America, that can be like this. Steve Rogers, the only one that really kind of had that mentality for it. And so I thought that was done really well. We've got John here saying hi to us. Hey, John, thanks for stopping by, my friend. Good to see you. We've also got Keith here, and Keith does tell us exactly. Christopher Priest, I thought it was Priest, maybe it's Priest. Anyway, yeah, it's James Owsley. Yeah, awesome dude. I'm sure you met him also, Keith, but man, he was cool to talk to. I really dug hanging out with him. I think I came by his booth several times that weekend just to say hey because I think I spent 30 minutes with him, and I got him before the show really began, and so I got to hang out before everybody showed up, because I didn't want to take up people's time too much, but I was so excited, my Falcon #1. So, but yeah, so and Keith, yeah. Keith also says U.S. Agents, Marvel's version of Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, and that's true. Yeah. That's pretty true. Both are jerks. Both have redeeming qualities, but both are not likable characters. Right.
Neither one of them are pure narcissist, but they both have narcissistic tendencies that drive them sometimes, and they both have horrible tempers and very much justify their own bad deeds by saying it's for the greater good or because of it or whatever.
Right.
But it's very human to do that. And
it is.
I actually was shocked that Disney did the shield scene. Even though, they didn't go into like graphic details with it.
Right.
But it was
with the blood on it. And
it was, I mean, you saw what he was doing.
Yeah.
And if they would have showed him on the ground, it would have gone into the boys' territory.
Right.
But I was still shocked. I thought what they were going to do is just take it out there and then talk about this is what happened. Like, I thought they were going to get away from that scene. But no, that was like, I was actually very impressed that they left that in there. And they did it in a way that, kids knew what was happening, but it wasn't so graphic. But, comic books get graphic sometimes. So
they do. It's worth the term graphic novel.
Exactly.
Keith also says it is Christopher Priest. Okay, good. I thought it was when I remember meeting him. I thought I called him Mr. Priest. Just a sign of.
I'm terrible with names, so.
Yeah, I just remember that from meeting him, because really nice guy, just great. So, all right. Well, here's something that kind of surprised me in it.
Okay.
How they used Sharon in this show surprised me, and I liked it. And it really left me with the question is, okay, is she really doing all this, or is she undercover, or is she truly doing both? Or, is she working for Sword in doing something with this? Yeah. And is this a sting operation, or is she really kind of gone in to the dark side because the heroes left her out to dry?
See, and this is the thing, and Shrew and I talked about this in depth. We talked about, like, before, like, the broker thing and, like, who's the broker, and there was all these theories that we were throwing out there, and I was like, I think it's just Sharon, I think she was working for somebody else, but I think the broker was Sharon, and I was correct, like the one that they call that. But the thing about it is, I am not sure, but I would not be unhappy if Sharon did turn to the dark side a little bit, because it makes sense. I think she'll, if it is, she'll redeem herself. I don't think she's a lost cause.
Right. No.
I also,
she dated Cap. She can't be a lost cause.
Which, don't get me started on that one. It's weird.
It is.
It's
comic book though. It's comic book lore though. I mean, it's weird, but yeah.
When they had Cap go back and live his life and everything. So he's now Sharon's uncle. Like,
But not by blood. But not by blood.
How creepy is that? That's like creepy uncle like times 1,000. Like that is no. Ugh.
Now, when she made out with him, he looked to be about her age, so it wasn't like the.
I don't care. It's just it's so gross to me. It was one of those moments where I was like, when they had him go back, and I was like, so now is he her uncle? Like, I know it's a different time, but ew. Like, did he see her grow up and all that? Like, it's just a gross thing in my head. I'm sorry. But other than that, I've always liked Sharon as a character, and I think she was underused a lot during like the whole Infinity War movies and stuff like that. The phase 1, basically, like
right.
Like, I feel like she's not been utilized correctly.
She's not.
But I would not blame her if she was just so mad about being left that she's like, nope, screw you all. Because she was. Nobody ever mentioned, like, even Cap, which I can't even imagine. One, she's his niece. 2, she was a love interest. And they just never mention. Like, they never, like, go back to try to bring her. Like, I would be mad, too.
Right. Now, Cap was on the run for,
but then
a portion of that. And then he wasn't. When he wasn't, you're right. He should have looked for. No. And maybe he tried. She's a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. She knows how to hide herself if she wants to.
But they didn't have a hard time finding her?
Well, she kind of showed up. She showed up, and that was intentional. So Keith's got some things to add here. Keith, if you want to come on, buddy, I'll send you a link. I mean, you can get on and talk to us here. And Jason, my friend Jason, same thing. So here, my friend Jason has this to say. Falcon Winter Soldier was flat out Falcon. Yeah, Falcon was awesome in it. Keith goes on to say there's a secret to Sharon. Now, I know what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah. It totally is. So.
And Jason says, flat out brilliant. I got a couple more here. Hold on. Sharon is turning the dark side fits the secret. And for those of you that know what one of the upcoming series are on Disney Plus, you might figure out what that secret is. Because I told my son what I thought she probably was. Sharon was someone with the right background to have a secret. Yes. And sure. Okay, cool. Keith, I will send you the link. So we'll do that. But yes. Yeah, so I'm with you, Keith. I actually looked at my son, Logan, and said to him, I bet she's a Skrull. I bet she's a Skrull.
I know.
And he goes, what? And I'm like, yeah, he goes, from Captain Marvel? I'm like, yes. Remember the shape changers? And
because they've taken over. Yeah. No, Shmoo and I talked about that too. We were like, is she a Skrull? Could she be working with them and because of S.H.I.E.L.D. but not that sort of thing. So
right.
Because of the last scene with her, I feel like yes, that's I mean, if you know comic books and you know her storylines and you know like what should be coming next, it makes total sense. So it
does. So I think Keith, I really did. But it is interesting because if she's not, where does this fit? Does she fit into the 10 Rings? Because I mean, possible we got a movie coming up with that.
Yeah,
which looks really cool, by the way.
I'm not sure, but I'm just like I was just very happy. I'm just very happy that Disney Plus is doing these TV series. One, to give us more what I think is a comic book series because it flows like a comic book and it has the lulls and it has the things, but it doesn't have like the big bad everything. Doesn't lead like WandaVision didn't lead to, I mean, a huge big bad. You know.
Right.
So.
Well, and this one doesn't really either. And I forget her name. The girl that was the head of the flag bearers.
Carly.
Yes, Carly. She's a very likable character. She's somebody you're looking at going, I understand why you're upset. And so then at the end, when Falcon, aka Captain America, goes on his rant, I just wanted to applaud. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Because I mean, she's somewhat justified. Now, you can't go around killing people. You can't go blowing up buildings with people in them to make your point.
Right.
But she was a likable character that had a lot of flaws, which is wonderful comic book writing.
Right.
You know, that's when you get those characters, you're like, man, they're like Doctor Doom, if written right, is a very great character because he's right on a lot of stuff.
Well,
but yet how he does stuff is wrong.
That's the thing with like that I was talking about with the villains, is that in most of villains' minds, except for like a few exceptions, the Joker being he's just crazy. Most villains have in their mind they're doing something for the reason, like you know, stuff. So, well, if you guys haven't watched The Falcon and Winter Soldier, go watch it because it was enjoyable. It did, and you will watch the first episode and you will be like, okay, the first 10 minutes is really cool, and then and then you're like, God, I hope it picks up. And it does. It does. So
it does. And there's some really cool it's really cool to see the interaction and growth of the characters of both Sam and Bucky as they grow together in their friendship. And even though they kind of like, oh, well, we're not partners, we're nothing here.
Right.
But you can see them kind of growing together, becoming tighter. The stuff that he does with the ship or the boat and all of that. I mean, that was awesome. That was a great scene where you actually get to kind of know the heart of the characters more and actually see the softer side. And honestly, I love the little thing with the taking off Bucky's arm with
that look.
Loved it. Keith said he was going to jump on. He's not jumped on yet, but once he does, we'll see if he wants to add anything else to that. But let's move on and talk about one of the other blockbuster movies that we got to watch on HBO.
Are you talking about
I
Godzilla?
am. There's Mr. Keith.
If you guys will excuse me for 1 second, I will be right back.
All right. How's it going, Keith?
It's going. How are you?
Good, man. Good. So we were going over our review of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, as you know. What are your thoughts, my friend?
I had one problem, and it was a kind of a story problem. But it also fits that it might also be a part of this other thing. But when I initially saw it, I had a problem, and I had a problem with the Dora Milaje. Given where Black Panther ended and their decision to allow Wakanda to interact with the rest of the world, the very fact that you would have the Dora Milaje show up and only be concerned with Zemo, not that they shouldn't, but given the fact that you also had a bunch of super soldiers going around killing people, the Dora Milaje would have assisted in the apprehension of these people after getting Zemo. The very fact that they didn't makes me believe that there could be either one or two members of the Dora Milaje that have also fallen under the influence of certain people with the secret.
Right.
So,
right.
Because the way Marvel Comics initially handled the secret originally, you're meant to be surprised with some of the people that are a part of the secret.
Right.
And there could be a lot more people than you think that are a part of that.
There was a lot in the comics.
Yes. So that was my biggest problem with everything. Other than that, it was well-told story. I thought that they handled it really well. I love the chemistry between really all the characters. But if I had to give a special award, it would be Daniel Bruhl being Zemo, because he literally stole the entire show, even though he was kind of brief compared to everyone else. Nothing against everyone else in the cast.
No, he just did a fantastic job.
Oh yeah, I look. You know, Daniel Bruhl has been a part of another television series for a while. And so, depending on whether or not that series comes back, I could see him signing up to be a part of season 2 if they haven't started what is meant to happen to his character now that he's at the raft. So,
no, I definitely agree. Yeah, that was really cool. So, you know, we talked a little bit about Sharon, kind of her interactions and how that you know, how she might be one of the ones with a secret.
With a secret.
But yeah, but you know, what was I going to say with that? It's an interesting thing. What if she's not? You know, what if she's actually?
There is that, but here's the thing.
Wow.
Where did you last see her? Where did we leave her off?
With her basically giving Captain America a shield and Bucky his wings. So that really was it with Civil War. And then she disappeared.
So she would definitely be someone that would have a problem and being on the run. The fact that they never identified her as someone who was out there helping Cap. The fact that you know, and I'm sure that whole 5-year thing took a lot of people out. Here's my thing. There is a distinct possibility that she could be a bad guy, but given her history and how she was raised, she was born to be a SHIELD agent.
Right.
And after seeing what has happened, you know, after experiencing and living next door to Captain America, if for anything else, I think the fact that SHIELD had been infiltrated by Hydra would let her know how dangerous people like that are, and would reinforce a lot of the lessons that she got from her great aunt about the good fight. And no matter how bad off things could get for her, I think there's always a way for her to come back. Some of that stuff was beyond dark that she had gotten into. And I still think that no matter what, Sharon is the perfect candidate to have a secret, because she is so well placed. And I think getting her back in, unlike, well, I'm having a hard time remembering, did she have a secret in the comics?
I don't think so. I don't think she was one of the ones in the comics.
Yeah, I think they were concentrating on mainly a lot of the heroes. And some of the heroes that did have a secret were kind of surprising. I mean, they went so far as even divided, they got into the Fantastic Four. And so, you know, if you can come between a married couple who know each other so well, it is not above reproach to have someone like Sharon be one of the candidates to have a secret.
Agreed.
Well, that and the fact that nobody's really seen her for years. And that if she acts a little bit different, well, no one's seen her for years and they like left her. And so she can act a little bit different and it's not going to raise as much suspicion as if she'd been there the whole time and they'd seen her. And so, you know, and if she's a little angry or if she's a little distant, like she has legitimate reasons to be like that, which would hide the secret.
Also, here's another thing. Look at who you can now tell because of all of these Marvel specials that they've been putting out. Look who isn't. Okay? This is going to be huge when they reveal it. Okay? So at this point, it's looking more and more like Bucky, Sam, Scarlet Witch, young Miss Rambeau, and possibly even Loki, which means that everyone else is suspect.
Right.
Everyone else is suspect. That's a pretty decent group of heroes, but compared to what's out there,
Right.
it might not be enough.
Well, that's what makes it interesting. Yeah.
Plus, out of that group, you have people who are, yes, they're heroes, but they don't like necessarily want to be heroes, or their tendencies don't lend them, like Loki. Okay, he's also a bad guy. Bucky, okay, he's also been a bad guy. Like, they don't. Out of the heroes, they have Scarlet Witch. I mean, you have these anti-hero basically type people who are the ones that you're gonna have now to save the world without the leadership of Cap or Iron Man, and
no, we've got Cap now.
We have, yes, but you know what I'm talking about.
I'm being facetious.
Rogers Cap, but
right.
See, the thing is, like, yes, we have Cap, we have Samus Cap, but he's still also new to being Cap.
He is.
And so he's going to have his own, like, in the way Sam works is he always, even though he's taken up being Cap now, because of his own self-doubt or insecurity, or like not thinking that he was good enough, that it took him a long time to do this. And so reluctant to be Cap, lends itself to a whole other storyline possibilities with him. Like, yes, I think that he is. I love Sam as Captain America. I think it's amazing, and he looked great. By the way, the costumes at the end when he got Captain America and
the new wings with that are really super cool.
But we still don't have a person who is like Captain America was, or like Iron Man was yet. Like, that has stepped out in the universe.
I think it's difficult to have someone like that. It is difficult to come across someone like that. I think Sam can step into that. The great, to me, the end of this series with Sam's speech is probably a nice answer to what he said to Steve towards the end of The Winter Soldier, when Steve makes that speech revealing that Hydra has infiltrated. And remember what Sam said at the end of the whole speech. Did you just make that up? And so for him to be able to say what he said, that brings us, that's a nice bringing it back around, because the moment he became captain, he was able to make a speech,
True that.
And I think that he has, out of who we have currently seen, not who's coming up, but who we have currently seen, I think he has the most potential to be like leadership for the new group and for who's coming up and stuff. But he is also, he's not as arrogant as Tony Stark.
It's hard to be that arrogant.
It's hard to be that arrogant. But Tony Stark's arrogance led him into that leadership role. I mean, that's the thing. And then he is not as old as Steve and not as seasoned as Steve was. So
Steve and Bucky. But that's what Bucky's for.
That is
but part of Bucky's whole spiel is that he also comes from the same time period. He's technically a really, really old guy. The only difference is that he's been tempered by both by the method that was used to extend his life,
right?
But also the fact that he was made to do some really bad things.
Yeah.
So his memories of that time period, going from where he last saw Steve to where he eventually saw Steve again, it's a completely different experience compared to, say, like what Steve had, which is pretty much just going to sleep.
Right.
And waking up.
Bucky lived those lifetimes, those lifetimes that Steve was just not
asleep.
There. Yeah. And so of course Bucky is like more jaded, and he's more, and out of everyone, you know, I love Bucky because I just think that he you know how I am. I love the villains or the anti-heroes because I feel like they tend to have the most in-depth kind of character development.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The reason, and everybody hates me when I say this, but the reason that Superman in DC is not like my favorite is because he's for years he was just always the good Boy Scout Superman until he wasn't. But when I was growing up, when you said Superman, you just thought like the best person you could possibly be and all that stuff. And I don't know. I like that, like, you could be bad, but you choose to be good kind of thing.
Sure.
Or you do good things, or you do bad things, but for good reasons, but they're actually good things. Like, I love that. So.
Well, again, if you really look at it, the DC heroes really are the heroes that the Marvel heroes grew up reading or wanting to be. That's who they are. You know, it is pretty black and white, mainly with them. Unless you're talking some of the characters like, say, Deadman.
Right.
Or a character like John Constantine, who really has some bad things, you know, in service to the good guys, but we all know the reason why he did a lot of that stuff, you know, because he's headed to the bad place unless he changes his fate. There are characters who, you know, struggle with that. A lot of the characters in the New Gods, you got Orion who has those tendencies, who was born into being technically a bad guy, but because of how he was raised, struggles against that nature every single time and makes it a point of opposing his dad, Darkseid. I mean, we'll just let that one go. But I mean, you know, it is, well, there's still a lot of people that have never read those books and they don't know what I'm talking about. So, but
they're watching us, so there are going to be spoilers to books and comics and like, sorry, there are.
Yeah, don't watch a review show if you don't want the spoilers.
Yeah, seriously, about the whole New Gods thing. Look, if you haven't watched Star Wars to realize that George Lucas got a lot out of that DC comic, including a certain relationship between two people, you're falling behind.
Well, let me, you know, probably my favorite scene was the reverse scene in the car from what we had in Winter Soldier, where Falcon is sitting behind Bucky and then says, "You gonna move your seat up?" Nope. I'm like, that played so well. I mean, I just laughed. I'm like, good for you. Just basically, nope, not gonna do it. So, but let's move on because I want to talk about a couple other things here.
Sure.
So, want to talk about one of Ace's favorite characters, Godzilla.
Godzilla versus Kong. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. I loved it. And here's the thing. Is it the best movie I've ever seen? No. Like, that's a huge statement. But
Right.
the fight scenes between Kong and Godzilla, we have seen. I love the fight scenes in King of the Monsters. The only problem I had with them is it was all dark, and so you couldn't see like the details of the fight as much. And this one, broad daylight, underwater. Like, yes, they had the night fight as well, but so beautiful. Like, oh my God, I loved it so much. I loved just every aspect of the monsters. The human characters on Kong's side of it, like, I didn't mind them. Like, some of them were a little bit like one note, but on like Millie Bobby Brown's side of it, with like trying to figure out why Kong is like, I just felt like the one, like her friend was there just so they could explain what they were doing to people or for people. Like, he had no, other than pouring the coffee on the like computer, which anybody, or whiskey onto the computer, anybody could have done that. Other than that, I just felt like he was a character that they had to put in there to explain to anyone who didn't understand what was going on visually, what was going on.
Right.
You mean Bernie Hayes?
What?
You mean the character of Bernie Hayes, the character that Madison was following? Bernie Hayes, the guy that had infiltrated. Is that the character you're talking about?
Her little friend. I can't think of his name.
Oh, you mean
the
Josh?
one that brought the van?
Yes.
Yeah, Josh. Okay.
Yeah.
Josh. Yeah, he was there more for some a little bit of quirky humor added in from here and there. Yeah, comedic support completely.
It didn't hit quite like he was quirky. So it was like, I felt like they were like, okay, she, one, can't just go off by herself. And two, we need somebody here so that, like, when we see the skull, they can explain what it is. And when we see this, they can explain what it is. And they can explain, like, to him. Because they needed to explain it to us. And yes, I understand that, like, storytelling-wise and movie-wise, that you usually have those moments where they explain the story a little bit in the story. But I felt like that's the only reason his character was really there. And I felt bad because I feel like his character could have been written better, or it could have been, like, I think the actor did a fine job for what the script was, but I think that they could have given him more.
I agree.
Right? Like, it was just like, okay, so you're going to make him just be like her semi-dumb friend who follows her. Like, they didn't build it up. They didn't explain any of it. It was just like, oh, I'm her friend. They weren't dating or romantic or anything. And he's going to take her on this, like, huge adventure, like, to go break into places and stuff without any backstory of, like, why he's doing it. And that made me feel like he was literally just there to have somebody to explain to the audience what they were doing. And that was weird to me. I think that it could have been written so much better for him. And even a couple tweaks could have made his story make more sense to why he was doing this.
Right.
But they didn't add it.
I kind of agree up to a point. Look, seriously, I would have cut the character.
Right.
You already had Bernie, someone who was on the inside. You had an adult who was doing this. Given what Madison had done in the previous movie with her mom and the way that she had traveled and the tendency to run off anyway, you could have at least figured out a way of writing it to where it was Madison that was giving Bernie a lot of stuff, and that the two of them together had come up with a lot of this stuff, and she would figure out a way of getting to him so that they could have the adventure.
Right.
It would have made more sense to streamline it just a little bit like that, and to have Bernie as the one that you gave a lot of the comedic stuff to, because this would be the first time you'd ever seen a lot of this.
Exactly.
And for Madison, she was kind of used to it.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the when it came to those scenes, that's all I kept thinking was, is he necessary? And like, the actor did a great job. I'm not like,
Yes,
he did a great job.
Yes.
But the character itself, I just felt like he was, let's just put this character in here so that we can, like, you know, explain what's going on. But it wasn't necessary for them to do it all. First of all, some of the things that they explained, you visually could see it. So
Right.
it was just, I don't know. We have the stupid, and they acted like he was a stupid kid. We have the stupid kid with us, so we have to explain everything. And
that's the inherent nature of trying to do that, because you want to put it out there for maybe people that had not seen the previous film.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't think you're going to have to worry about doing that for the next film. Because
it was just, it was the only part that in the movie that really I kept going, why is he even there? Why?
Right.
I hate that. If you have a movie where I think that a character, and not just once, but like the whole character throughout the whole movie, like I feel like there's no need for him to be there, you should just reevaluate that character. And I know I'm the only one, because I've talked to other people about this, and they're like, yeah, he just seemed like he was just there so they could explain things to him. And I'm like, I know. And I
think there's another reason, though. There's another reason to have him there. Millie Bobby Brown is very much in demand right now. She is a hot commodity.
Right.
And what I meant as far as not having to worry about that, I'm thinking she's on her way out. This is her last movie.
now they have
but
to do.
Josh is cheaper, comparatively speaking, even though he's also a hot actor on his way up, especially after Deadpool 2.
Right.
But I'm thinking it would be easier to hire him for any future films and to team him up with Bernie, to have the two of them have adventures, because now you've established a relationship between the two.
Right.
And I think it'd be easier to do that than to have Millie Bobby Brown's character for any future films. Not that she couldn't come back if she didn't want to.
Right.
It's just easier financially.
Right. Right.
I understand that. I just think that if that is like a back of the mind mindset for his character, they should have given the character a little bit more development in this movie. Just a little bit. A couple tweaks could have like made it make way more sense. And it wouldn't have even given him more screen time or anything. It would have just been a couple tweaks to a couple things that were said. And that was my only like big issue with this movie, is when he was on screen, I'm just like, I don't even know why he's there. And I felt bad, because I'm like, I don't dislike the character. I just didn't think he added anything to the story at all. And I'm like, okay, just a random other person there. It makes more sense now that I think about it in the way you just brought up. Like, what if she doesn't come back and they need somebody who's like a younger person who's Godzilla, Team Godzilla to character out of Mike Bay or Roland. You want to come on here? He's like,
well, I don't even know we needed that interaction with the people on the sides. I mean, you could actually shrink it down to having the two sides and having them debate each other and talk about things without so much of their interaction. And you know, the best parts of the movie were the monsters. I mean, we got Godzilla and King Kong, and they did inhabit most of it. In every Godzilla movies has their little plots with the humans doing something, some more than others, but really it was like
the thing about
what
it,
was the point of these characters half the time?
right? But
There is an important point that you have to consider with this movie. This film marks the end of Toho's contractual agreement,
yes, it does.
which means that technically you may not be seeing Godzilla.
Yep.
Or any of the related characters for a bit. So that leaves us with Kong, who, if you notice, they had to fill in a whole lot of backstory, but also other story to help support the Kong character and his presence. They did a lot of building of Kong and his side of things, and of the new monsters that have come in with Kong. Any other future movies that they decide to make can easily come from the Kong side of things,
Yes.
and with the creatures and new creatures that you'll be seeing.
Right. Because they have to, because of the contract, because Japan, it's in the contract that after this ended, Japan has
Toho.
Yeah, Toho has I get to, the next time I see Godzilla, it's probably going to be in a Japanese movie,
mm-hmm.
and not an American movie.
Yeah.
And so I understood the whole idea of Kong. It was a very Kong heavy movie. It was a Kong movie than a Godzilla movie.
Well, Godzilla had technically 3 movies.
Right.
And prior to that, Kong had only had 1. You had to do a lot more building up of Kong and a backstory to help cover all of the fact that Kong had only had 1 film. Yeah. And that film was set in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right. So you had to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, it's decades of Kong. He grew so much bigger and all of this. I actually didn't mind that because of the fact that we have had 3 Godzilla movies. I didn't mind that at all. I also think that they set it up, he's Kong. They really set it up for him to be King Kong, the whole king. Yes, he didn't defeat Godzilla, but he found his own throne.
Right.
He did not defeat Godzilla. It was they will fight another day kind of thing. But he didn't defeat Godzilla per se. Godzilla didn't defeat him per se. But he did find his own throne, and he found his own kingdom. Mm-hmm. Which now sets us up. We have the king of the monsters being Godzilla, but we also now have King Kong, which can set us up. And like you said, with the contract ending, and we don't know if we're going to get American-made versions of Godzilla movies. Who knows when that's going to happen again, if it will. Putting them together gives us the ability to have this universe continue, which I'm all for. Because I love my monsters. And Kong is just the perfect jumping off point and especially since, he's now in his own kingdom. It's the jumping off point. We don't know what kind of monsters exist down there. We don't know if they're going to escape into up, because there's that giant hole now. I don't know how, you know what I mean? So we have.
Well, where they're located, they can go anywhere now.
Yeah. Because
of where Kong is, they can now appear anywhere on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Kong can follow them wherever. I don't know if Toho will do another deal because, they've gotten a lot out of this deal. Yeah. This has given them a huge. In fact, technically, Toho did Universal a big solid just signing up for this deal, and now Universal, if need be, can just carry it from here on out. This is going a lot better than their last Monster Universe, although it might have something to do with the fact that Alex Kurtzman isn't running things.
Could be.
So,
but no, I think we're going to see very similar to how we have seen the negotiations with Spider-Man and with Sony and MCU, I think you're going to see Godzilla here. I think you have to. I think both sides have a lot to lose by breaking them up. And the momentum you've got going, yeah, Kong is awesome, but some of us are diehard Godzilla fans, and that does a lot for you. And if you're talking interweaving Godzilla and Kong mythos, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do.
Toho got a lot out of
know.
there. They ended up making another Godzilla movie after the first one that they did with Bryan Cranston, and that one did very well for them. So their options are completely open. What you have is a relationship.
Their own also, and have this universe going on. So why would you not?
It depends. It depends. There could be a few reasons why they would like to take a vacation away from this and establish their own stuff again, because they want to be seen as viable and in control. If the only way they can make money is by pairing themselves with Universal, it might make Toho look like they need Universal, but in actuality they don't. And I think they want to establish or reestablish their brand. Those who are Godzilla fans know the power and influence of Toho.
Yeah.
Okay. The rest of the world needs to understand that. Universal is going to do fine with just Godzilla. You've got a team that knows what they are doing now. You've established a team of producers and of writers who know how to carry this forward, unlike working for Kurtzman.
Well,
all I can say, there's a symbiotic relationship here that they both can make a load of money. They both can increase their brand.
Yes.
To me, it doesn't make sense to not follow through. Now, there may be, you may want to say, okay, we're going to back off for 5 years, but we'll be back. We want to continue this, and then you can have a Kong movie in between, and then you can promote that Godzilla's returning at the end of it. I mean, you can do something with that.
If what happened last year, the pandemic, it changed everything for a lot of things, and I actually think that Toho. This gives them an opportunity, one, to reclaim Godzilla as theirs. He's been on loan, basically. And Toho is where it started, and they want to claim it as theirs again. I think, yes, it's like financially, it was a good deal for both parties. And if the pandemic wouldn't have happened and everything, we might have a little bit of a different conversation on this, because I actually think that Toho is now like, okay, we have this huge money maker. So one of the biggest movies that's like one of the biggest characters in one of the biggest movies for the last year and a half, just because we haven't had like a lot of movies in the last year and a half. I think it's smart for them to hang on to Godzilla for at least 2 years. I really do. I think 2 to 5 years is just smart.
What's gonna happen?
Hey!
Toho has been itching like crazy to make a sequel to Shin Godzilla. So what I believe is going to happen wholeheartedly, they'll make Shin Godzilla 2, and then they'll be like, okay, cool, now you can have him back to play for a while.
And that's great. If we do that, I'm cool with that. I just don't want to see you brought this really great thing together. Mm-hmm. Let's not break up the team. You can go make your individual movie, but let's not break up the team, because this is really grabbed people's attention. I mean, this has been a big talking thing. And the special effects in this movie were some of the best I've ever seen. It was amazing.
The underwater fight was just like, oh my
God. Well, and the fact that
I gasped. We were watching it on the big screen, and then we came home and I watched it the next day on HBO Max. Wanted to rewatch. And like I almost cried just because it was so beautiful, and I'm that person, because I love my monsters so much. But at home, I was just like, yes, please. Like, it was so beautiful. And I think it was the perfect, like, the first Godzilla movie was very human driven.
Yes,
Human
it was.
story was. King of the Monsters was very monster driven, and I felt like this one was. It didn't. The human story didn't overtake the monsters, but you still had some of that human story in there, which I thought was okay. What, Keith? I love it when he does this.
I do believe, though, that at least from Toho's point of view, there are quite a few things cut out of this movie. And I would like to look right at Universal and say, you owe us a director's cut, a full director's cut for this movie. Because there are characters and situations that were dropped, but that just like with Justice League, when it came out in theaters, there are people listed in the credits who either barely have a scene or are not in that movie at all, meaning that you cut a lot of stuff out. And so there are character setups and plot lines from the last movie that they decided to just cut out of this movie for whatever reason. And it's not just Godzilla. I'm thinking there are also plot lines and character stuff also from Kong Skull Island that they also left out. So we are owed one heck of a director's cut.
Like when the credits rolled, the cast list had way more people in it than were in it. That's always when you know that a lot of people ended up on the floor.
And a character connection that not many fans, unless you went online to see it, that you didn't realize that carry over from the last movie.
Well, and that would be interesting because I thought that a lot of the plot with the human interaction was weak. I just felt like, what are their motivations? What are they really doing? How did you stumble into this? But
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You had Ren.
Give me more.
The character of Ren.
Yeah.
Needed more explanation. You needed to know that he has a connection to the last movie.
Right.
Okay. Ren was the one who was controlling. Ren was the other quote unquote bad guy.
Right.
Okay. You needed to understand that his connection is that his dad was the one that sacrificed his life in King of the Monsters. Yeah. But they didn't put that out there.
That would have made so much more sense because I'm like, it's a James Bond, crazy guy who's building a giant robot just to mess with Godzilla. Why in the world are you doing that?
There were so many things that because I'm such a big Godzilla fan, I read things and stuff like that. There were several characters that have backstories that were not touched upon. There were characters that I thought were going to be in it but weren't in it. I think I have this big issue, and if Justice League, the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League proves anything, is we will watch a long movie. Okay, we will watch a movie that is like longer than you think if it's good.
Right.
So
if it's good.
I've never walked out of a movie. I'll just watch a bad movie too, but because I'm a movie person. But they could have added those things in, and I don't think it would have hurt, especially now, especially considering what we've gone through in the last year and the fact that we were all starved for movies. Just any movie being released, we were starved for. And you have Godzilla and King Kong, and I really, really, when I found out it was like 2 hours and 2 minutes, I think is what the running time was or something. I was so disappointed. I thought it was going to be at least a 2.5 hour movie.
Right. Right.
It could have done it.
Yeah, I think it may have been ultimately, and I think they decided to cut it down to increase, box office, even though, whoops, pandemic. But I just think that at the very least, given how many fans though have reacted, everybody's been saying, well, the humans are good, but we really enjoyed the fighting more.
Monster.
From Universal's point of view, that sounds like they made the right decision in cutting a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And I'd like them to know, no, Some of us
You
fans.
didn't provide a good story because of the way you treated your characters. You've left me with questions on why would this happen? What's the motivation of this character? If you're going to put this character in there, if you want to just make it straight monsters and get rid of the humans, I'm fine with that. But if you're going to put humans in there, at least make the story worthwhile to watch.
King of the Monsters was what you just said.
Yes.
Monster driven. Little bit of humans, not a lot, which I didn't mind because the little parts that we got made sense to the monsters.
Yes, it did.
A lot of the characters in this one, including Madison's friend, Josh, like he was just, and that's my problem, is I felt like the human characters were put in there just to push the monster story forward without any depth. And I think the depth ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
And that's always sad to me. I wouldn't mind. Listen, the fight scenes were amazing. And if you would have taken the humans out of that movie completely and just had the fight scenes, I would have been a happy girl because I love monsters. But you put the humans in there to drive the story forward. Do it in a way that makes sense and not just you're explaining the story to the person watching it.
Right.
Well, also you have Mark Russell in there from King of the Monsters.
Yes.
Madison's dad. You got him in like 2 scenes mainly, and all he's doing is just mugging.
Yeah.
You got nothing. It isn't like the last time you saw him in King of Monsters where, there was some exposition and science and other things coming forth from, and plus he's now running everything and you get nothing from him.
He doesn't, they say that, she says that, or her friend says that, or whatever. It is said that he's running everything, but all you see him do is walk around the tent at the beginning.
With coffee.
And here's the other thing, arguing with her about Godzilla and his motive, which didn't quite fit with with how he was before.
Yes.
What they went through. I feel like he would have agreed with his daughter at this point.
Right.
And then you have her calling him when he's like there. Like also, and this is a big thing, and I this is the one thing about this movie that I'm like, no, seriously. Okay, I understand at the end of these natural disaster monster movies, everyone finds who they're looking for and blah blah blah. Oh, we're reunited. It could be like you're in a place that would take you weeks to actually find your loved one, but we find them in 5 minutes. I get that.
Yeah, 10 million people in a city that just has a big hole burned through it that you're trying to evacuate because people are probably dying because this big hole to the freaking center of the earth.
But why?
And you find each other in 5 minutes. Okay.
Why is he looking for her in this city? The phone call, he didn't hear. He just heard her, but he didn't hear where she was. He didn't know she was there. Like, did she pick up the phone again afterwards and say, "Hey, Dad, I'm here"? Like, why is he even looking for her? It didn't. In his mind, she's still back in the United States. Like, that part of the movie just drove me crazy. I was like, no. And I feel like that's one of the things that ended up on the floor. And he was and he wasn't like an amazing character, like, but he was a good character, and they could have developed him more, but instead they just like made him be like this background actor. Like, I felt like he was in the background the whole time. He is the leader of this group, of this scientific group that follows these monsters. And 1, he doesn't listen to his daughter, who went through all that. 2, he just seems to be like behind the ball instead of in front of the ball. He seems to be behind on everything. Like, he doesn't realize, like did he not know that they were transporting King Kong? Like, that was never mentioned. Like, he's all focused on Godzilla. Like, I feel like he would know something about Kong going, that big fight. Like, that's not on his radar. They don't show him like reacting to that. Nope. They show him in a tent saying, "No, honey, don't worry about it. Go home, play with your dolls. Like, be a teenager. I don't know what, And then they show her calling him, and he's there. But what is he doing? He's just standing there. I didn't like that.
Well, then you have the character of Ben. You have the character of Gullerman, played by Lance Riddick, great actor. You hired this fantastic actor who a lot of people know now from shows like Fringe and mainly the concierge in the John Wick movies.
Yeah.
And you got him in pretty much a small cameo.
Yeah.
Right.
So, there's more to the film. There's a lot more to this movie. And again, I'd like Universal to understand I'm watching. I want my director's cut. I want the longer version of the movie.
So what hashtag are we using?
I would say for a 4-hour movie, if it was as good as those fight scenes, if you developed those characters better. I would.
Yes.
The fight scenes. Plus, I'm just saying, I would. But, I'm not everyone. And I understand that. And I understand that they wanted to try to optimize getting the seats in, or the butts in the seats, and then turning the theater over. I've worked a movie theater. I understand that that's the concept of a movie theater, is turnover. So you can get as many people to watch your movie in one day as possible. So you can get as much money as possible. But sometimes I miss the days, and I wasn't even born for these days, but I miss the days. Probably went to the movies and watched a 3 to 4 hour epic movie, and they knew it was going to be an epic movie, and it was okay. Like, I wish they would have done that. That's the reason that these great movies are not like being released, is because it's the bottom line, getting the butts in the seats and turning over that theater as fast as you can to get the next.
Yeah, it is. And if you're going to be epic, be epic.
Right.
Make it worth everyone's time to watch.
And you
utilize everything you have.
You have two of the two epic monsters in cinematic history. You have Godzilla and freaking King Kong.
Right.
And you cut it down, and they cut it down. Like, there were parts of it that looked like they cut it down.
Right.
Cut it down to be just at 2 hours, just because you don't want to go over 2 hours. Because for some reason, I don't know when that happened, but in the 80s, it was an hour and a half. 70s was 2 hours. 80s, they went, we're going to make everything 90 minutes. And then now it's back up to 2 hours. I think that if it's great art and it has a fan base, and people are going to go see it anyway because it's freaking Godzilla versus King Kong, let it be what it is. And let it say what it should be. And stop.
You paid for it.
Out.
The studios, you paid for it. It's not like the director and the production are off doing whatever they want. You guys have all the memos.
Yes.
You've seen the script.
Yep.
You know how this is working. Just do the job. At the very least, for a fan base like this one, be smart. Be like Peter Jackson and make plans to cater to those fans once you fulfill your obligation for the theatrical release. Meaning, they should just go ahead and release a full director's cut anyway. Go ahead and make it like you planned it, or plan to do that later so that fans understand, hey, we're just releasing this because we need to. We got to make money and we have a lot of obligations. But guess what? There's another version coming, and we're going to cater to you that want to see a really good story. And again, you got to understand, it's been almost 20 years since Lord of the Rings.
Wow, that's crazy.
And you've got to understand that what Peter Jackson was doing must have been radical, because nobody else seems to want to really go down that road,
right?
And talk to fans and get them excited. And because look how much they sold, look how much they ended up selling to you. You know, you bought the theatrical cut of the movie, and then they had the extended version.
Yeah.
Then they come out with the full, you know, kind of like big box release. I mean, they just and we all bought it.
Well,
all of us bought it.
Take my money. Take my money.
Well, and here's the thing: it was done in such an immersive way, not just for us fans, but for the actors and for crew and everything. And you know, like they lived down there for years doing these things, but it was worth it. And I don't know if they just didn't think that Godzilla and King Kong was going to be worth it, but you have to think. Do you know what I mean? Like because the last couple movies, well, all of them have not done as good as they thought they were going to do. Like the Godzilla King of the Monsters did not do as good in theaters as they thought it was going to do.
Yeah, but it did very well on cable.
It did amazing.
It did very, very well on cable.
It did. But you know, like I feel like they were like, okay, we had these high hopes, and it did really well, but it didn't meet because the bigger the movie is, the next one they think it's going to be even bigger, and they think it's going to be even bigger. And at some point, there's a movie that lulls in that stream just a little bit, just because of the timing it comes out or whatever it is. And I don't know if that's their thought process, but if there was ever a movie that was this kind of movie that could have been an epic movie, it was this one.
Yeah. Well, if anything, now that they've quote unquote completed this half, I'm expecting the ultimate MonsterVerse box set. I'm expecting all of these movies in a very special box set, and call it the Monarch set.
Right.
And what you want to put in there is all the stuff related to everything that we've gotten up to this point, along with all of the special features, new interviews with past cast members, and also, you know, allow the creative team behind all of this to give us hints as to where they want to go beyond this.
Right.
Okay. There's just so much here, and I cannot believe that Universal is just sitting there going, hey, well, I guess we're going to go next one.
I feel like they're just twiddling their thumbs and they don't know what they're doing. I'm sorry. I think I crack Keith up. Sometimes I say stuff and I really think Keith is just like, she says shit that I think. I'm just saying. But it's true. Like, I feel like, you know how I feel like they're like the bully on the playground. And I don't mean they're a bully. I'm just saying there's nobody to beat up right now. What are we going to do now? Like, they don't have a direction to go to. Because,
I know.
And it's
looking around for something to do. It's like, well, shall I do homework? Shall I clean house? Or shall I eat paste? You know?
Like, I don't know what to do. And that's sad. The truth of the matter is, if they listen to the fans and not give fanfare, listen to the fans. I don't want you to create a movie just because of like what I think should go in it. I mean, I do.
Do it for me. Do it for me.
But,
yeah, I'm all right with that. Yeah.
But I want them to listen to the fans and take into account that there are so many fans that just want to see this or want this or that to happen, and instead they create things. Not this movie, but in general. Yeah. Like production companies create a lot of stuff that I'm like, why when you could, why you have a gold mine right here and you're not doing it?
I will admit to one thing, and tell me if you guys did it, because I'm going to admit to this. After Godzilla, King of the Monsters, you guys did notice that all of the internet-related stuff worked.
Right.
Okay? For this movie, okay, Bernie, his website didn't work.
Right.
There was nothing. You could go to it because I did that with my phone. It's like, oh, wait a minute, they gave it away. Okay.
Yeah.
And nothing worked. There was nothing there. It's like, are you guys serious?
I know.
You put it on the screen. And after the last movie, you put it on the screen. I mean, why wouldn't you want to make it work? I don't know. I'm not figuring these guys out too much.
It's a lost opportunity. And it's a lost opportunity
Very much so.
for the future. Because not people like me or you guys who love movies and will see all these movies or huge like monster fans, but for the people who this was maybe their first monster movie, which I can't even imagine in my head. I can't even go there in my head. But
well, I can.
But there's those people.
Well, and sometimes kids are getting introduced to it for the first time.
Right.
So, it could be a kid's introduction where they're like, this looks so cool. I can't wait to see it. And they have not seen the other things. But
I'm just talking about the adults because
Okay.
here's the thing. We're the ones that spend the money.
That's true.
Right?
We're the ones that buy your merchandise.
Right?
We're the ones who pay to go to whatever thing,
Right.
autographs, get all that stuff. Yes, we do it for our kids, but we're the ones footing the bill. And if we're telling you this is what we want, give us a little bit of what we want.
No, not at all. I'm that guy.
Thank you, Freddie Mercury.
I'm just like, but listen to us, because if anything, this year should have taught them that without the audience being able to see these movies and buy the merchandise, they don't have a business. They
Right.
don't have a
You
viable.
think.
You would think, right? You would be like, and here's the thing. If I had the rights to Godzilla versus King Kong and I made a movie about that during a freaking pandemic and released it and it was as big as it was, you don't think that I would be like, let's milk this cash cow for as much as freaking possible?
That's what I'm saying. Now you're speaking my language.
Again,
why would you break this up? You milk this thing, you put out extended versions of it, you run this thing on HBO with the extended version, you do everything you can and sell all sorts of extra merch with it. T-shirts, people. I mean, look, I'm wearing a Stranger Thing t-shirt.
I want you to seriously do a website that is just all the freaking Monarch articles that are on the front and the end of these movies.
Yeah.
And I want you to extend it. I just want you to have somebody who's just writing up these crazy ass articles and then just putting them out there, because I will read that. And if there's a subscription to that website, guess what? I will pay for that, because it is basically just a graphic novel in my head at this point.
Right. And J.J. Abrams, I know some people feelings on JJ, but JJ Abrams perfected this with his Lost and other things that he did right around that same time. Everything they showed on Lost had a website connection to it. You could go actually join part of the Dharma Initiative. You could do all this. That was 20 years ago, people. JJ Abrams figured this out 20 years ago.
I'm doing a new show called Keith Chimes In.
Yes, I've seen that. Over on Pop Culture Minefield. Check him out.
And I have this thing where I'm doing this kind of extended thing about Babylon 5. Yeah. And I think Babylon 5 is a better way of explaining that, because without it, there is no Lost. There is no Fringe.
Right.
A lot of the extended shows that you have, and they thought things through. They put out a lot of merchandise. They had the internet wasn't as developed then, and had it been, you would have seen more things.
Yes.
But I think J. Michael Straczynski and that crew, they would have put things through that would have allowed you.
I will be right back. You keep talking. I'm going to listen, but I'm going to be off.
Oh,
okay. All right.
Okay. They managed to do things with Babylon 5 whereas you had books and comics that, unlike Star Wars and Star Trek, played into the plot of what they were doing.
Yes.
And so when you plan things out to that extent, you know that this is a group that would get into that. And for some reason, we've lost it in the intervening years between
I agree.
93 and now. So,
I'm with you. It just doesn't make any sense why you wouldn't do that when other people successfully been doing this and got people excited. Could you put something out there? You can put little pieces and hints towards the next movie, have people talking about that for years. We will talk on this show until we're blue in the face with stuff like that. Why would you not be trying to get people excited for this? And it's a missed opportunity. It really is.
I think to a certain extent that's what they tried to do at the end of this movie, at least as far as the King Kong stuff. Because with Godzilla headed off into the sunset, that was a nice way of ending at least Godzilla's participation for now. That doesn't mean he won't be back, but having him basically swim off into the sunset, probably headed back to a certain place that he's known for being from, it does set everything in motion for Kong to continue, because when you see Kong at the end of the movie, he has the researchers there. Everybody's now living in this new environment with him. And, again, I just want to see a lot more. I want them, if anything, they should put out a limited box set of everything and call it, as I said before, the Monarch set. And what you want to do is you want to have notes and stuff going back, like you're receiving some of the files from Monarch. Although in this movie, they explained a lot of stuff has now been revealed. Right. Just like at the end of the Winter Soldier, when Natasha put all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secrets online. That's basically what has happened with Monarch. Monarch now had to be very transparent. So all the records they had kept for decades, investigating all of these creatures and where they are out in the public domain. Right. So why not do that? Why not establish a website where you can go and look up this stuff and have fun with it? That's the part that really just gets me. It's the ultimate marketing tool, and you didn't take advantage of it.
Oh, exactly right, my friend. You and I would so help these companies. I mean, we could really what are you thinking with this? Why in the world would you miss this opportunity? It is already written for you, dude. You've already got this stuff there. Just use it properly. So my son crawling into his bed back behind us and see the blankets moving.
So
So
my phone was dying, so I had to find my charger. So.
Well, I'm glad you found it, Ace. Okay, let's move into our last movie we want to talk about. We've talked about Godzilla and King Kong a long time, and this has been awesome. But let's talk about one that was released this last week. Get over here. Let's talk a little Mortal Kombat.
Okay, so I watched this last night. Have you watched it yet, Keith?
I haven't seen all of it. What I have seen, I liked. Okay, it's not that I did like it, but I'm also speaking as someone that enjoyed the '95 movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah. I enjoyed this. What I saw, I enjoyed. It has a great look to it. I like the actors. I'm hoping that they don't, do what Universal has done and kind of. I think they should just jump into this with both feet and give us all the Mortal Kombat we can handle.
I agree.
Yeah.
I played the game like when I was younger. I played the game with my kids when they were, on the different systems. I really liked it. I thought I had people who were like, it's really gory. And I'm like, it's Mortal Kombat. Like the video games are gory, but I feel like the way that they did the gore was very much an homage to the video games. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't just this weird thing. It was what you would think if you were watching the video game, but with people. I really liked that. I loved all of the backstory that they gave us and like this character development because because I do know the video game. I do see like a lot of people who have never played the video game or don't know the characters. They were like, it's a little slow at some points. I didn't feel like it was that slow at those points because I do know these characters. I will say that a couple of the actors, just the way that they spoke kind of bothered me because it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like a natural flow. It was almost like they were trying to be way too much like the video game. Like they spoke like this during explaining something. And it was very annoying. But I don't think they acted badly. And I think, but it was just this dialogue that I felt like should have flowed more like a real life instead of video game. If I want to watch an animated video game, I would play the video game. And that part was the only issue I had with the movie. Shpoo loved this movie, by the way. He was like, yes. He was like, terrible acting, bad script, but he loved the movie. That's what he just said from the kitchen. He's making me dinner.
Good for him. Way to go, Shpoo.
Right?
You know what? I'm going to brag about him for a minute because he stays home and he homeschools Lex and he takes care of the house and the yard and everything else. And I come home from work and he makes dinner probably 90% of the time, unless I want to cook. So I'm good. Yes. He takes good care.
You got a good one there. You got a good one there.
But yeah, so we watched this movie. We were going to see it on the, what? He said, thank you, Keith. We were going to wait and watch it on the big screen tomorrow.
Right.
But we were like, people were just telling me all this stuff. And I was hearing all these things. And I'm like, no, we have HBO Max. We're just going to watch it at home. So we did watch it last night. I thought that the CGI gets a little sketchy in some points, but it's an action movie based on a video game. I can not even imagine how hard that would be to create. So I appreciate that they tried on something. But then some of the CGI was amazing. And I'm like torn because it's like, you just had crappy CGI and now you have amazing CGI.
Right. I hate when they do that.
Do you have two people working on it and there are different skill levels? I don't understand.
Sometimes you can have different companies that have been hired to handle visual effects for a film. And that really speaks to your coordinator, your visual effects coordinator. So whose job it is to help all of the different visual effects kind of match the overall look of the film.
Right.
Because that's your one job.
Yes. For the most part, it was pretty good on that. But there were a couple scenes where the CGI, I was just like, oh no, really? Like it looked like the actor was standing in front of a green screen, and then it looked like that, which was disappointing because some of the scenes, what I loved about it is they brought us to those places that you actually went in the video game, like the areas that you could fight. They actually brought those to life, and they were done beautifully for the most part. And then there were just a couple that it was just like, really?
Right. No, I
feel like somebody let their intern do one just for the fun of it.
Ouch!
Yeah,
Ouch.
No doubt. He's got to finish his project for college. We got to let him get that project in there. So yeah.
Everything. You want to do this one? You do this one. I do.
So,
I really do. So
let me tell you what I think of it. So the opening scene is simply amazing.
Right.
If you would have taken that story and just completely ran with that story, I would have just been so in love because I was so engrossed in that first scene and those characters. But the problem one of the problems was then you've got a character developed there that you don't see again until the very end. and you kind of get some sort of explanation on it, but I'm like, oh, that kind of, and then when he comes, he's different, and I'm like, okay. I mean, it's a video game movie, so I'm okay with that. But I'm like, it could have been what we had here. And then my other issue with it is it's a movie about a tournament that we never do the tournament.
Not yet.
And then I'm like, well, how do we not do the tournament? Well, we're not going to do the tournament. We're just going to break in anyway. Why not just do the tournament? And my only thought was the original 95 movie is all about the tournament.
Right.
So it's kind of like doing an Amazing Spider-Man when they refuse to say with great power comes great responsibility, because it was such a key feature in the original 3 Spider-Man movies that you don't say it on purpose. So we don't do the tournament on purpose. And that kind of bugged me because I'm like, just make it the tournament.
They're setting it up for more movies.
I know that.
I know, but that's the whole point.
But then you killed several of the main characters from the video game.
Right.
I guess you're going to reanimate them since you're coming from a dark realm.
If you go and you know like the history of them, a lot of them have siblings that are very similar to them that take on their names and have very similar powers. So yes, video games are all about people don't actually die; they come back to life.
Right? No, right. I get that.
But if they would have gotten to the tournament, which I thought at the beginning, I was like, we were 20 minutes in, and I'm like, they're not going to get to the tournament on this movie because they were trying to develop these characters for people who've never played the game, didn't know the game, and they wanted you to like these characters enough to go to the next movie. In order to do that, you have to show them training, and not just like a 5-minute Rocky montage of training. You had to show them training and getting to know each other and getting their powers and all of this stuff. And I hope that they do go forward with movies and more movies, because my big problem with when they set these movies up is that sometimes they just don't go forward with the movies, and then I get disappointed.
Right.
But I did not mind that we didn't get the tournament. I think that this movie was about getting the champions.
Right.
This movie was about Earth's champions.
I would have loved a full movie about Hanzo. Just go there. Just give me that, and then kill him at the end to set up that part, whatever you want to do. That would have been so amazing. I was so into that interaction, especially at the beginning, that I'm like, I feel let down because of that. So
the reason I think that they didn't is because Hanzo's character is based so far back in time. They want to make it modern for kids to like. Do you know what I mean? Kids aren't watching samurai movies from like the 60s as much. They're not watching.
They should be.
I know they should be. But they're not, Professor. They're not.
I know. We tell them to. We've told them several different ones to watch over the
they're just not listening to us. So studio-wise and business-wise, you have to make it a modern setting. Hanzo's story is in the past. I did love that they showed flashes of him in the mirror. Like, I love that you got those little flashes of Scorpion.
Right.
And I love that they brought him back at the last scene. You should have seen Shpoo's face. He's like, yes. Like, it was so fun.
Well, you knew he was coming back. I mean, the commercials showed you that.
But he loved watching it happen. One of my favorite parts about like watching movies with him is it's kind of like me watching Pop Culture Minefield is my favorite parts. It's like Keith's reaction. Shpoo's reactions to movies is like one of my favorite parts. I'll just look over and he'll just be like it's just such a wonderful thing.
So you're saying Shpoo and I should just do a show together where it's just nothing but our reactions?
Oh my God, I would watch that so much. Did you hear Keith? He said, so I'm saying that you and him should do a show together where it's nothing but your guys' reactions. So I would binge watch that shit. I'm just saying.
Well, I really like this movie. I gave a little bit of critique there. I had fun. You just suspend belief on a lot of it. It's a video game movie. You know, some of the characters, I'm like, okay, yeah, but I wouldn't have. What is the main girl's name? I forget her name.
What?
Sonya.
Yeah, Sonya Blade.
Sonya.
Sonya Blade.
I didn't like that she didn't have the mark at the beginning, and they kind of left her out there. I was like, it's this helpless girl thing again, and we know that she can already kick butt, but I don't know. That kind of left me a little cold, but I enjoyed the movie.
I took it the other way. I took it as girl power, not helpless girl, because she could hold her own with these people who have the mark.
Right.
Without the mark.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of like Batman.
Don't forget that the reason she didn't have a mark is because she allowed Kano to live twice.
Right. She just pointed that out. She also has this moral compass that's like Kano doesn't have it.
Right.
Allowed him to live twice. That's what Shrew just said. And that's why she doesn't have the mark at the beginning. And that's why she doesn't have the mark until until she gets to that point where she has to kill him.
Sure.
Like, there's no other option. And then she gets that mark. It is a great character that
is she's a special forces girl, and you're telling me she doesn't have it in her to kill somebody.
That is. Did you hear him?
I did.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I don't know. I was kind of put out that she's the only one without that, and then they kind of treat her as this nothing while they're training. Well, you don't even have a mark. I'm just like.
But it's kind of like what she did. She knows she doesn't have the mark.
Right.
She embraces that. She's still gonna fight. She still fights, and that's the thing. Is like
melted. They're just goo.
Sorry, Shriek's cracking me up. But I love that about her, and I thought it was great. I thought that it was nice that they weren't all champions, but they all were fighting. You also have to take into account that none of them except for, oh my gosh, his name just went over my head. The main guy, none of them are born with the mark. That are now champions. They all have the marks because they killed somebody or defeated somebody. So he's the only one who has been born with the mark, like out of the ones that
Cole.
Yes, Cole.
Cole, yeah.
Couldn't I think of his name? My life. He is the only one who's born with the mark. And so that's also a thing. Like, that's why he is now the leader of it. It's because he was born with the mark. He comes from a bloodline of the mark. And I like that they each have their reasons that they get the mark. And I like that she didn't have it for the longest time. I think that it let us see somebody get that mark. Like, it's a way for us to see that too, because when we get introduced to everyone else, they already have the mark. And so we wouldn't get to see, if they all already had the mark, we wouldn't get to see that transfer.
Well, and that's true. What would have been fun, now this is completely not into the mythos of Mortal Kombat, but it does go into the mythos of one of my favorite movies. If all suddenly she would have got a quickening and lightning would have gone around her and she would have held up her sword. Oh, sorry, that's not it. But no, something that would have been a little more spectacular. I would have loved that. So, and again, I like this movie. I'm not saying bad things about it. I just thought that
her character.
That was my thought when she got the mark. I'm like, but just some sort of quickening or something here. That with a lightning god, shouldn't the mark come with a lightning thing around her, like Highlander? I don't know.
I mean,
so
It would be, but it works for Highlander.
Here's the thing with it, though. It falls into the myth of Mortal Kombat that not everyone who has the mark realizes they have the mark right away.
Oh, sure.
And so
there you go.
You can't have that lightning and because then you would know you had something different.
That's true.
What was great about her?
That's a fair point.
Right. And what was great about her and her character was because she was a fighter and she was a champion at heart beforehand. It didn't take her weeks or days to get her arcana.
That's true.
Right away and went and fought again. And she's the only one who went and fought a different person. So I took her being not having the mark as actually a strength of her character. And I didn't take it as a girl weakness. I know they at one point say you can't come in here, you're not a champion.
Right.
And then also when she gets cut and she the other girl licks the blade and she's like, oh, you're not a champion. You're not even worth it. I think that would not have, that's what made that character good. Mm-hmm. And that's what made that development good is because she was still fighting. She was still trying to, she was still kicking your butt and she wasn't even a champion. And that's the thing.
Fair enough there.
So.
All right. See, so no, you know what? I think that actually was very convincing because I'd watched it and my mind was, I don't like how they're treating her. I don't like this. I don't, and I'm like, they're writing her as a helpless girl and she's so kick butt. This is not cool. Yeah. But you're right. She does hold her own, but they weren't going to let her fight until ultimately they broke through. And again, to do a tournament that wasn't a tournament. I don't know. That was weird.
I think that it wasn't necessarily about them looking down upon her for being a girl. I think it was about because they did, or they looked down upon her because she didn't have a mark, but it wasn't about her not being her being a girl. It was because she didn't have a mark. But she would have been the only girl with the mark as a champion. On Earth, yes.
Yes.
She was, though, she never as a character took that as something that was bad for her. She never took it upon herself. Their opinion of her never her opinion of herself. She knew she could kick butt. Yes,
right.
Disappointed they weren't going to let her fight, but it didn't stop her from fighting. And
right.
That I think was the important part of that. It's kind of like the wife, Cole's wife, she takes an axe.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm all for girl power, but if I saw that thing come out of a barn at me, I would not. I would have peed myself. I'm just saying.
So you wouldn't have tried to save Spoo with the axe. You would have just got in the running car and left.
But I'm going to tell you this, and he will agree with me. If Lex was with me, he'd want me to take.
Oh, that's true. No, I agree with that.
And so I understand that point of view, the wanting to protect the one you love, but.
Even if you didn't have Lex, I would still be like, no.
He would still be like, save yourself. But at the same point, that just also shows, and that's the whole fun thing about Mortal Kombat, and I think that's the thing that is missing when you're playing the video game and then you read the stories, read stories, and because you don't get them in the video games as much, you read the stories. It's not about who's the strongest. It's really not. Mortal Kombat is not about who's the strongest, because if that was the case, then a lot of our heroes and our champions would not stand a chance against some of the others.
Sure, right.
It's about who has the most heart, who has the most determination. And it's a story about humanity fighting against, forces beyond their comprehension to save humanity. And I think they set this up to be it's a good platform for more movies, and I'm hoping it goes to that, because I really love the graphic blood and the graphic like death scenes, and like I thought it was very video game like, but in a real life kind of way, and I thought it was really cool.
I don't disagree. It was going in knowing it was going to be a video game, knowing that it was R-rated, that you're going to get. It's not PG-13. You're not going to get. What wasn't the '90s PG-13? The 95.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it was, because I don't think you saw the graphic blood. You would see kills, you would see blood, but you didn't have the guts spilling out. I mean, some of that was kind of like, okay, that's a little gruesome. But again, the game can be very gruesome. So
the buzzsaw. Are you talking about the buzzsaw?
Oh, the buzzsaw one also. Oh yeah.
The buzzsaw one was like, I was like, oh, they went there. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
But it's rated R not because of sex, nudity, like none of that. It's rated R because it's gruesome.
It's gruesome.
Mortal Kombat. So
that's true. Well, I'm not saying you should take your kids to see this and expect it's not going to be. I'm just saying it's different than the 95. If you're thinking it's going to be just like the 95, you need to reevaluate, because it's different. I enjoy both, but yeah.
Yeah. The 95 was like, the 95 was based on what I think of like the games I played, and then this one was based on the games my kid played. And so, because the games when I was playing were not that graphic. Well, the
graphics weren't as good either.
So. Weren't as good, and so my mom didn't. When I was playing it, because the graphics weren't as good, my mom didn't realize that it was so gory. When my kid played it, the graphics were great, and you knew it was gory.
Yep, certainly enough.
So I liked the 95 one. I liked this one. I think that it shows the progression of the game and the graphics of the game in a movie, which I think is cool.
Yep.
I love how much it actually the actual canon of the game.
Do you want to come on here and say that?
I just wanted to say I appreciated how much it actually stuck to the canon of the game, like backstories, names, certain details, and things that to the average viewer would just go right over their head. But to fans of the game, it was like like Sub-Zero, for example. The fact that his name was oh god, I can't remember it.
By-Han?
Something like that, yeah. But that is the first Sub-Zero's name in the game. Well, whenever I first saw him on screen, I'm like, well, why is he wearing black? He doesn't have any blue on him. Like, he looks like Noob Saibot. And I'm like, oh, because that is the Sub-Zero that goes on to become Noob Saibot.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like, to the average viewer, we just go right over your head. But knowing the game, I appreciated those little details like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I understand. I think it was great. I just there are little things, and I'm like, that kind of bugged me about this and that. I'm like, especially not doing the tournament, going to bug me.
Did you let Logan watch it?
No. Oh no. I wouldn't let Logan watch it. I got in trouble for letting him watch another R-rated movie with a guy who's a former killer coming to get his card, and I don't know. So I kind of got in a little trouble for that. So I'm not gonna. It's a little too much for Logan.
Won't you be happy when he gets old enough that you can share those movies with him, though?
Yes, I will. Yeah.
It does,
I will be very happy.
It does get better. It is so much fun when they're old enough to be able to watch it with you. It's so much fun.
And I've gotten some of that with Natasha, to be honest. I mean, there's certain things that we've gotten to watch together that's been really cool, because she's old enough to watch a lot of the same stuff now. Now, some of it she doesn't want to watch, but now I do have to say, there was the there was the was it no? There was a series on Hulu with time travel, and it was the one guy from Hunger Games. Anyway, it is. She really wanted to watch it, and yeah, and the first 10 minutes derailed it. Where I'm like, no, I can't watch this with you. Okay, we're done. So I'm like,
compared to you, I was a terrible parent because Dakota is as long. I think he was about 9 or 10 when I would let him watch R-rated movies, as long as there wasn't like awkward sex scenes that I had to watch with my kid, because that's always awkward. But if it was just blood and guts, I'm like, okay, you play video games.
right. Well, and he
played video games, so I was like, you see this?
He doesn't play that level of video game. So
yeah, I told you I was a terrible parent.
You weren't a terrible. Each parent has to make their own choices. What's best for their kids. That's
just very like. I don't know how to explain him. So he was just very into that. And my mom had raised us. Like one of the first movies I remember the two first movies I ever remember watching was Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
And Cujo. That I remember watching with my mom.
Keith's eyes.
Rosemary's Baby was the first movie that I remember like sitting down and watching, like, you know, like you're like 3 or 4 years old and you sit down and watch the very first movie was Rosemary's Baby.
That's an interesting choice. So
I mean, it was my mom loved horror movies, so
right.
Thing and yeah.
See, that makes me feel bad now because I didn't let my kids watch Blues Brothers and Animal House until they were way older.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah. I will tell you the weirdest movie, a movie that I had to try to convince my mom to let me watch, and it's this random 80s movie, and it's just because the name of it, and she was like, no, you can't watch this. You can't watch this. And she rented it. And then she's like, oh, no, you can watch it. And I was like 14 years old. And it was Casual Sex.
Yeah.
With Andrew Dice Clay and Leah Thompson, Corey Jackson. And it's a comedy, but it's called Casual Sex.
Yeah, right, I remember that movie.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, with all of the 80s movies that had a lot of nudity, a lot of sex, this one really didn't. It was called Casual Sex.
Yes.
But then you get a movie like Porky's.
Yes.
Right.
And, yeah, there's no way. No way.
I watched Porky's at a friend's house. I watched Porky's.
That's how it happens. That's exactly how it happened. I went to a friend's house and we watched it. Porky's is like, okay, that's fine. Okay, to be fair, I did enjoy it, but you know, it's just.
You ever think though, like I used to send Dakota to like spend the night at his friends' houses and stuff, and I was like, what are they doing? Because I remember the things I did that my mom don't do.
Yeah. Yes.
It's you worse. That's the way my mom always put it. It's like your kids are you, but worse.
Which I was such a good kid. Like I think the only bad thing I ever did was watch movies that my parents were like, no, maybe not. Dirty Dancing. It took me like 4 months to convince my mom to rent Dirty Dancing when it first came out. And then my mom and grandmother loved it so much that we bought a copy. Well, actually, we didn't buy a copy. So we would rent it. My sister, my mom, and my grandmother loved that movie so much that they would rent it every week. And so they had a contest that we didn't know about and we didn't sign up for at the movie rental place. And we won a copy.
Well, there you go.
So, but 4 months because it was called Dirty Dancing.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Meanwhile, my parents let me go out and see heavy metal. And
yeah, it's a weird thing. It has been 2 hours of talking.
It has. I was just about to say that. So we need to let everyone go and do all that great things. But let's give some shout outs to our friends like Mr. Keith over here.
Yep, you can watch Keith on Pop Culture Minefield. And also, what's your new show called, Keith?
Keith Chimes In. Here's the graphic for it.
That's an awesome graphic.
That's really cool. Oh my goodness. Well, Keith and Gary are over there on Pop Culture Minefield on YouTube, and you have Keith's new show, Keith Chimes In. We'll have to get a little banner for that. But go check them out. They have all kinds of cool interviews. They get all the great scoops.
Gary's fantastic. You look, you got to be a fan of Gary Cassell. Follow him. Just follow everything he does, and occasionally tune in to listen to me blather on. And that's Pop Culture Minefield. And yeah.
We also have our friends over at the Nerd Informants, Tim and Josh. We love them so much. I work with Tim like at my job. I work with him, and he's just as fun in real life as he is on your screen. So they're on YouTube and Facebook. Nerd Informants, just wonderful guys, and they have all kinds of nerdy things. They keep you up to date with all kinds of nerdy news on their Facebook page, so check them out. Be sure to like and subscribe to all of our friends that we're going to mention here. We have the Scallywag himself, Spoo, over at Scallywag Productions on YouTube, and we're hoping to get back to actual regular schedule for some shows. I do a show with him called A Series of Enigmatic Events, and then he also does a couple shows all by himself called Mindless Dribble, and the third one is just whatever he decides it's going to be that week. It's a true statement. We have new friends who are just starting out, and we don't have a little banner for them, but they're going to actually be on our show next week, and that is Brianna and Amber over at OzPod, which is OzPod.
We'll get a graphic for them. Yeah.
OzCon's podcast. Say that 3 times fast.
3 times fast.
They just started, and they're going to be on our show next week to talk about it and everything. And they're just 2 geeky girls, and we love them so much. They're so much fun to watch. So go over there. They have a Facebook page now. Just started. I sent a bunch of invites to people, but just OzPod. And then our site, GeekyKOOL.com. You guys can check stuff out. We have all kinds of contributors, writers, video, everything. And if you guys want to join our team, let one of us know, either Professor or me, and we'll set that up, and you can write and contribute for GeekyKOOL.com.
All right, that's awesome.
That's my spiel.
I love how you do that. That's so much better than me stumbling over it. So, all right. Well, thank you, Keith, for joining us, talking about this great show and movies, and being so awesome. We love you, Keith. So, thank you for joining us. AJ Ace, it's always a pleasure, my friend. I love doing this with you. You're amazing.
I am something. I don't know if amazing is the word, but
I will say amazing. The Amazing Ace. Until next week, because next week it's on Thursday night. We're doing Thursday night, 7:15. So tune in there for a special edition where the ladies from OzCon, I'm not going to call them girls, I got in trouble last time for that. The ladies from OzCon show up for what was it? It's not OzPod. It's
OzPod.
it is OzPod. I don't know why I was thinking it wasn't.
So
I don't know.
OzPod. Yeah,
OzPod.
The graphic is so cute too.
It is cute. I agree. So tune in for OzPod next week with us Thursday night. We will be here. And until then, stay geeky. We'll see you guys later.
Yeah, be sure to check Keith out over there. Look at that. Bye, guys.